A young woman, Melisato, was killed by a gunshot to the head. The shooter was an immigration police officer. The abbreviation ICE horror nightmare. Hang her killer on the nearest pine or birch tree. But still, maybe we should figure things out before hanging anyone, sort it out ourselves, and actually watch the video that, for example, American Broadcasting Company showed. American Broadcasting Company always tries to present the Trump administration's actions in a negative light, so if they show something, it's either accurate or even from the other side, kind of against Trump. So American Broadcasting Company, a Honda SUV. So the pilot, I think, with a woman driving, blocked the road for law enforcement since the road was blocked. So at least one or possibly several more cars at the same time. So it was clear that this wasn't an accident, but let's say a planned and thought out action. The officers, Ace comes out of their cars and approaches the woman. One of them demanded the driver to clear the road, while the others stood in front of the car to prevent her from moving forward. When the police tell you something by law, you have to comply. Later, you can challenge it in court, but at the moment, you are required to obey. Instead of moving backward as suggested, the female driver first moved back a little and then suddenly stepped on the gas. Well, now see for yourself.
In the video, 37-year-old Raina Good sits in an SUV, partially blocking the intersection. An agent tries to open her door. The car reverses, then moves forward. A third agent fires 3 shots.
Do you want to see it again? Instead of moving backward, she started moving this way. She suddenly changes direction, steps on the gas, and drives straight at the police officer. At least from his point of view, she's driving right at him.
In the video, 37-year-old Raina Good is in an SUV blocking part of the intersection as the officer tries to open her door.
Some people say she would have killed him if he hadn't fired. Some say she wasn't even driving toward him or that he could have jumped out of the way. And some say if ICE hadn't come to Minneapolis, Minnesota, she would still be alive. Personally, I trust my own eyes more than the explanations of those who want to pull the rope to their side. This is what those who want to stop the investigation of crimes are trying to build in our minds. I'll explain now what is meant in the Democratic Party of the United States of America in Minneapolis, in general in Minnesota, and wherever else.
Tension is rising tonight in Minneapolis and nationwide after Agent ICE shot and killed Renee Nicole Good, a 37-year-old mother of 3 in her SUV. As they moved out, protesters clashed with the police, demanding that ICE leave their city, Zurich.
ICE, go home.
Disturbing footage shows officers approaching the SUV, with one officer grabbing the door handle. As the car reverses, the wheels turn right, and when the driver moves forward, another officer fires. The shot hits her in the head, causing the car to speed up and then crash into vehicles parked on the side of the street. Robert Boyce, ex-chief of detectives at the New York Police Department, reviews the video frame by frame and shares his analysis. I see.
As the officer crashes the car, it's unclear how badly he was hit. He fires once, then quickly shifts to the right and fires 2 more shots in rapid succession. The question is about shots 2 and 3, and this officer will have to explain why he fired those 2 shots.
The boys also remarked on the officer standing in front of the car.
Never approach a car from the front or the back. Stay to the sides and as safely as possible. That's the whole point.
Last night, President Trump told the New York Times that the driver behaved terribly and then she ran him over. She didn't try to run him over. When shown the video, the president called it a terrible scene. At the White House, Vice President J.D. Vance blamed the driver entirely.
I can consider her death a tragedy, but at the same time understand that it's a tragedy she brought upon herself.
And he continued to defend the officer. Thus,
she tried to ram this man with her car. He fired. In response, he was defending himself.
The Minneapolis mayor called the Trump administration's narrative garbage. Good reportedly dropped her 6-year-old son at school Wednesday and was driving home when she encountered ICE agents and was shot on this street.
That's when you're told a lie, you catch someone lying, and you immediately get suspicious that they're lying to you about other things too, not just where you caught them. The journalist reported that she took the children to school, or said she was going to take her child to school, to take the children. It's not very clear at first. Then she met the agent and he shot her in the head. So the sequence of events is she took her child, the children, to school, met the agent, and he shot her in the head. Questions immediately arise about what happened in between, why she blocked the road, why the police stopped, and why she did this together with everyone else. There was at least one more car, as we can see on the screen, and maybe even more cars. Second, why didn't she clear the road when the police officer told her to move? She started backing up as he told her, but then suddenly changed and rushed forward. Third, why did she do that? When he reached out his hand to take her keys, that's usually done when a driver doesn't comply, doesn't get out, and doesn't obey. Then the police officers try to take the keys. So, she jerked back and then hit the gas? Despite someone standing there, a law enforcement officer, though that's not important, what matters is a person was present. All of this should have been said if you're a journalist, but if you're a paid propagandist, then she took the kids to school. She met a police officer on that street and he shot her in the head. This story lacks cause and effect connections. So people who perceive this as the truth, it means they don't know how to analyze what happens next. They lack critical thinking. So this message is made with the purpose of deceiving the public and stirring up emotions. Well, it's for nothing else, right? Because 2/3 of what happened is left out. And really, it's just to brainwash the viewers. The story about her being a good person, which I absolutely believe, of course, but that has nothing to do with what happened, or rather with what she did.
Renee Gudd, a mother of 3 from Colorado Springs, recently relocated to Minneapolis from Kansas City.
A neighbor who was not a terrorist, not an extremist. She was just a mom who loved her children, loved her husband.
Her mother told the Minnesota Star-Tribune, she cared about people all her life. She was loving, always forgiving, and very affectionate. She was just an amazing person.
She was an incredible person. She was a wonderful friend, wife, and mother. She was not an extremist, as we were told, by the way, which is completely unclear to us. An extremist is someone who blocks the road when the police are coming and doesn't move, and then steps on the gas and pushes forward when there's a person standing there, or is that something else entirely? I really don't know what they mean. But she blocked the road for the police. She didn't get out of the car. She tried to escape from the police by driving the car toward the person standing in front of it, and she was shot by someone who thought she wanted to kill him, run him over, or injure him. I don't know what he was thinking at that moment. A car was coming at him. He pulled out his gun and shot at her 3 times, which is quite possible. Maybe she did want to, by the way, we don't know. Maybe not to kill, but to hit him. Or maybe she didn't want to. And maybe it was just out of hatred, out of anger, in a state of emotional stress. She simply wasn't thinking, drove at the person, and she was killed. She could also be a good mother, friend, wife, aunt, sister, or mother-in-law. I don't know, and so on. But she was wound up, she was worked up, she was driven to hatred and rage by someone who will move to another part of the country, Portland, Oregon. A car with 2 young people speeds straight toward 2 police officers, and the officers open fire. Well, everything is just like in the media, right?
Ivrik, Sean. Good evening, Sean. As you noted earlier today in Portland, Oregon, a Border Patrol agent shot 2 people after the driver of a car allegedly tried to run over federal officers. All of this happened at around 2:19 post-meridium local time, of course, Pacific time. When the agents identified themselves, by the way, this was a targeted stop of an alleged member of the Tren de Aragua, a Venezuelan gang, after the agent identified himself. The driver and the passenger, who is also believed to be part of the gang's prostitution ring, tried to use the car as a weapon and run over law enforcement officers. After the driver was wounded by gunfire, both the driver and passenger were found about 10 minutes later with injuries and taken to the local hospital, Sean. We don't have any new information about their condition today. And this, of course, comes right after yesterday's shooting in Minneapolis involving a woman who also allegedly tried to drive toward officers. Though ordered to leave, she still died from her injuries. Sean.
In other words, police officers know that criminals use cars as weapons. If you don't react in time, you'll be the one in the morgue, not them, so you decide.
As you know, our mantra is that people believe what they want to believe, and that's about 90% of the human population. So, facts, very few facts matter. It's all emotions. They believe what they want to believe.
The only thing I disagree with Bill about is that he thinks 90% of humanity doesn't check anything, can't think critically, process information, and doesn't want to think about anything. I think he's wrong. It's not 90, but 99.8% of the planet's population. Well, let's continue.
So, just minutes after this terrible shooting in Minneapolis, people had already taken sides. It's clear the left, who don't want increased immigration, demonized ICE, and the right, who really want the federal government to control illegal immigration, demonized as well. Renee Nicole Good. It's all right. She is the mother of 3 children, including a 6-year-old son. She's a lesbian, and she lives with her female partner. Why is that? Because right now it's completely unclear where the youngest boy will end up, and I'm really worried about him. A 15-year-old daughter, a 12-year-old son, how they live with their father, a daughter of some age, a 12-year-old son, they live with their father.
So it turns out that everything is a little different. Well, just a little bit. Out of 3 children, it turns out that 2 live with their father, and the youngest son, who is 6 years old, lives with Renee and her lesbian partner. It's hard to picture the image of a kind mother who takes 3 kids to school. And it's completely apolitical. If I told you they lied somewhere, it means they're lying somewhere else too.
Her mother, Miss Good's mother, claims she wasn't an activist, but that's not true. She was a very passionate liberal. And my sources, both in Colorado where she lived and in Minnesota, say that she wasn't some kind of Antifa throwing bombs, but she was emotionally involved in leftist movements. So, the first bad decision that led to her death was that she shouldn't have interrupted federal operations. That's what she was actually doing in this investigation, and she parked her car to try to interfere with federal agents. That was a terrible decision.
So Renee is an activist, and it's clear that she's very emotional. By the way, many homosexuals are overly emotional, so...
Especially when you have 3 kids. I'm not blaming her for her death. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying that bad decisions lead to bad consequences. All right, there's absolutely no reason on earth why this woman should have put herself in such danger. And if you, whoever is watching me today, wherever you are in the world, do the same thing, you will most likely get hurt and you could die. You should not interfere with the authorities while they are performing their duties. That's never done anywhere. That's not a protest. And right after this woman was killed, this absolutely unbelievable Lebanese trash appeared, claiming that she was a legitimate observer or some kind of crazy nonsense. No, that's not true. She broke the law and obstructed justice. It's clear. And now the most important thing out of everything I've said so far in this report, I repeated last night on Cloma's show. Play the recording. Well, first of all, I'm not going to question the actions of the police officer. That's beneath me, and I won't do it. I understand it was a mistake, and anyone who does that should reconsider. Secondly, this is a story about bad decisions, and in your life and in everyone's life, if you make a series of bad decisions, you'll have to pay the price. So I don't think anyone has the right to judge the officer who shot Minsk. To be continued. What you'll need to make a decision on this matter is an enhanced video recording. Sitting in the room, you'll be able to view it frame by frame from every angle, and then you'll need to hear the agent himself testify about his state of mind. This instant decision, it really makes me angry. I'll tell you this, when you see these people doing it on television, I really think it's so immoral, but I don't do it, okay? I won't do it. I've been in situations, wife, death, weapons. You know, I know what adrenaline is. I'm not going to judge this person.
Rather, we should look for those who are egging him on from around the corner, people like Renee. They're not hard to find, ladies and gentlemen. The former candidate for vice president of the United States from the Democratic Party, Governor of Minnesota Tim Walz, who is currently under investigation for embezzlement in the billions, not just millions, but billions, is trying to stir up a fire of hatred against Trump in his state to shift attention from his own crimes to something else, just like Clinton once ordered bombings to distract the country from his affair with the 19-year-old White House intern Monica Lewinsky. And now he's an instigator, and apparently a thief as well.
Here you have Trump's modern Gestapo grabbing people right off the streets. They're in unmarked vans wearing masks, and they're sent to overseas detention centers.
That is, Trump's agents drive around, they're wearing masks, they catch defenseless and innocent people and send them to torture chambers abroad. God, what a nightmare for a troubled mind. It's terrible. This must be stopped. They must be crushed. You can't obey them. They must be destroyed. 3 restorative signs.
They had no chance to defend themselves or say goodbye, just seized by masked agents, forced into vans, and vanished.
Here's the mayor of Minneapolis. Earlier was the governor of Minnesota, and now this is the mayor of the main city, Minneapolis. He also seems to be involved in stealing billions and also wants to distract attention somehow.
Get out of Minneapolis. We don't want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, but you're doing exactly the opposite.
People are suffering in pain, and families are being torn apart.
Children are suffering, families destroyed, and these people are even worse than Hitler's fascists. We have to do something. We have to stop these beasts, these monsters in human form.
But there is no doubt that Walz and Fry are provoking and inciting. Well, this is an action against the federal government. Of course it is. You can't deny it. Who could possibly deny that? And this poor woman got caught up in this hysteria. As for the Trump administration, when you have a $9 billion scam committed by a group of illegal migrants from Somalia, when $9 billion are stolen from American taxpayers, you have a direct obligation to send Department of Homeland Security personnel to the facility where the $9 billion fraud was committed. This is not just an option, it's your direct responsibility. And now Walz and Fry, they don't care about the $9 billion. They turned a blind eye to it. They should have known. They should have known, and they allowed it. So you can't handle them. They are in rebellion against the United States. So President Trump orders 2,000 ICE agents to Minneapolis, not only to detain criminal aliens. And these Somalis involved in this fraud are exactly such criminal aliens, but also to establish some order in Minneapolis, which is clearly lacking there right now. However, if you want to make any comparison, you can't, because the President of the United States can be absolutely anyone. There is an obligation to stop the $9 billion fraud.
Gentlemen, for those who haven't realized yet, $10 billion have gone missing somewhere in Minnesota. At the center of it all are 150,000 Somalis living in this state, half or more of them living there illegally, having deceived immigration. The authorities are either involved or maybe they look the other way for bribes. Trump is sending federal immigration police to deal with it, sending them, there's never been anything like this before, sending 2,000 cops because the Somalis are very aggressive and armed, by the way. 150,000 of them. The local police, following orders, don't help. They just interfere. The state leadership is fueling the flames of hatred among the residents and leading them into strikes, demonstrations, and riots. Well, as we all know very well, paid rioters come from different states where they've been hired, and they take part in the unrest. And some nervous citizens are so terrified that they not only resist the police, but even try to injure or kill police officers. And in this case, a woman dies, which plays right into the hands of the scammers, very much so, because that's exactly what they wanted. Now they have something to shout about. They created all this so that cases like this would happen. The more the better. The main goal is to derail the investigation into the theft of billions and avoid life in prison. And by the way, all of this is funded by those very same Somalians with the stolen billions. That's the whole story about the shooting of a young woman, a mother of 3, an activist, a leftist, a suffragist, who I suspect was on antidepressants and other tranquilizers. No one should die on the streets of America. So what's the point of looking for someone to blame, gentlemen? If you're looking for someone to blame, it's the Democratic Party of Minnesota. See you.